This is Roy Kessel for Sports Philanthropy Network, live from Radio Row at Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans. And we're very excited to have with us today Andrew Morton. Andrew is one of the top nonprofit attorneys in the country and works with hundreds of athletes and their foundation. So Andrew, thank you for making time for us.
You bet. Maybe one day I'll be the best, not one of the best.
Well,
I'm working on it.
Depends. You got to increase that donation number to seven figures.
Absolutely.
Once he does that, then we can be the best. But in the meantime, Andrew's done an amazing job for us at Sports Philanthropy Network and has worked with lots of organizations. But one of the things that we always talk about is some of the challenges in getting nonprofits off of the ground, right? One of the difficult things we see is so many athletes want to create impact for their community. They don't know how to, and then hopefully they come to you before they just run ahead and start doing things and creating a mess. So tell us about some of the things that you see and how you work with the athletes to make sure you keep them on track.
I mean, this is sort of the world, as I like to call it, of the good people doing great things for all the right reasons, but they're doing it the wrong way because nobody's giving them guidance on how to do it the right way. So the legal compliance tends to be put to the side because they're so excited to do the good work. And they really don't have the opportunity to learn about, how to do it right. And unfortunately, all this good work they're doing, the story becomes you did it the wrong way, you violated nonprofit law, you weren't compliant, which is, that's the worst of all outcomes because it not only sort of impacts those guys when they start getting letters about noncompliance, but then the teammates and the alumni and those guys get scared off. They're like, I don't want to be in that position. I don't want to be the guy in the story saying that I did it the wrong way. So we miss an opportunity to get more engaged philanthropy from these athletes and other celebrities who have such an incredible platform and opportunity to leverage that platform for good.
And you and I talk about it frequently. One of the things that we do quite frequently is we talk athletes out of having their own foundations because there's other structures, whether it's through a donor advised fund, whether it's through a fiscal sponsorship, whether it's through just raising money at an event and having the beneficiary be another organization. There's so many ways that athletes can create that impact without having their own organization.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, again, when we talk about the omissions and the lack of training, the lack of education about this stuff, these teams, these leagues, they could very easily make philanthropy a part of everything they talk about. They talk about certifying agents, they talk about financial advisors, they talk about business managers, but they just don't tend to talk about the philanthropy. And there are these opportunities, if they understood it, to have this impact created, but through a structure that they can't possibly be non-compliant because they're operating through an organization that's all they do. That's what a fiscal sponsor is. That's what a donor advised fund is. By going that route, it is literally impossible to do something the wrong way because they won't let you. And that's a great training ground to sort of vault these opportunities into operating on their own. And so these donor advised fund fiscal sponsorships, they're not necessarily an end game. I like to call it the 501c3 baby pool. It's like we're not going to chuck you in the deep end and say, figure it out. We're going to put you over here where you can't possibly drown, teach you how to swim, and then we'll go to the deep end and we don't have to worry about you sinking to the bottom because now you know what you're doing.
Well, and the problem, right, you said it well at the outset. This is all with great intent and great heart. These are all people that want to make a difference in the world, that really want to change lives and transform communities. And so what's mystifying to me, and I know you share this viewpoint, is with the amount of time and resources and effort that are put into players and player development at all stages, youth sports, high school, college, pro, former pro, it really isn't even that big of an investment of time or dollars to make sure that this is done the right way.
Yeah, and again, it's all about leveraging their public image into philanthropy. We live in a world where people care about what celebrities are driving and who they're dating and what they're eating and what clothes they're wearing. We can use that as an opportunity to promote what philanthropy they're involved in. And the guys who do that, the great thing about it is that, again, I've never met an athlete, and after the hundreds we've worked with, that I felt was doing it for the wrong reasons. There aren't guys I hear, well, aren't they just doing it for the tax break? Absolutely not. Like, these are difficult, it's you got to make that decision to do it on your own. If you want a tax break, you write a check to the United Way and you're done. There's no extra deduction for having a foundation that you establish. So again, it's all about helping these guys figure out how to do it in a way that they aren't scared to death about being in the wrong place at the wrong time and in the wrong news story.
Right, and it's much harder, as you said. It's easy to write a check or send a wire. You make the donation. You don't have any of the time, any of the effort, but you're not investing of yourself, right? These guys and women, they get involved with this stuff because they really care. They're really passionate about a particular cause. You can see our wall of philanthropy, all of the causes people have been putting up all week here. It's amazing the stories that we've heard. It's incredible to hear the interactions
Good and bad.
And the things like that are going on. And so really, what we want to look at is how can we make this difference? What can we do, right, as Sports Philanthropy Network and as other organizations in order to make this work more effectively?
Well, and it's you said it right, that it's not that big an investment if you're driving in the right direction. The issue is, these guys that from the start don't know what they're doing, but the social platform they have, especially these days with social media, with earned media as we call it, they're on on these shows. We're standing around Radio Row, and there are all these broadcast studios, and these guys are getting interviewed, and they can easily sort of pivot from who's going to win the football game to what are you passionate about when it comes to saving the world. I mean, these are guys who understand they were blessed with certain opportunities that none of us have. I mean, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar practiced hard to learn the skyhook, but I couldn't practice to be 7'2". So he understands that he was given a gift. He used
Bobby
the gift.
Brady could stretch himself out on the
That's
jungle
true.
gym.
I suppose, but I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to go there. But again, it's just using that platform, and these guys they just have to realize that they can use their platform in a way that doesn't risk being in the wrong news story, that doesn't risk sort of getting yourself in trouble and turning it going the wrong way, where all this good you're doing gets overshadowed by what you didn't do right.
And I think that's such a crucial point, right? The idea of this legal, financial, reputational risk that occur, it's really something that's important to consider, right? To understand as the athletes do things, is how do we keep them out? Because at the end of the day, with rare exception, right, it's not their financial advisor or their lawyer or somebody in their organization whose name is going to go in the headlines, in the paper, on the ticker, on ESPN or Fox Sports, in the talk shows, right? It's somebody, in Chicago. One of the stories I remember the most was Chris Zorich. Ultimately, no allegations that he did anything wrong. It looked like it ended up being sloppy bookkeeping, but for weeks and weeks and weeks, Chris Zorich Foundation's name is all over the place, even though he wasn't the one that committed any of the mistakes.
Well, and that's, people have to understand that when you give to a nonprofit, you're not giving to the guy. It's very, very different. And, people start talking about my foundation, and my clients, I say, never let me catch you say my foundation. It ain't yours. Like, it's there for the public. It's there to do good. And the public starts to get a little unclear about whether or not they see the name and like, well, that guy's, he's rich and famous, like he doesn't need help. They're missing the point. Like, he's just a vehicle to promote a cause, and if you care about that cause, you should take it. You should recognize that's a huge opportunity to multiply your impact, because you're not giving to an organization that's just sort of on its own, like isolated soup kitchen or an after-school program. You're supporting a cause, and you can use that donation to support someone who has a platform that you don't have. I don't have. You might have, but that's the best way to get this done, is to support causes and recognize that there's no reason not to support it just because a rich famous guy is on board. It's the other way around. Like, I can make a donation, and my impact can be multiplied many times because he can use that donation to use his platform and end up bringing in more donations. And again, it's the most effective way to support philanthropy if you do it right. And my hope is that the more that we talk about doing it right, then the less guys are going to do it wrong, and the fewer guys are going to be afraid to start in the first place.
Andrew, thank you so much for coming on
You
with
bet.
us on Radio Row. We appreciate
You got
your
it.
insight, your expertise, and your leadership in this space.
Thanks so much.
On behalf of Sports Philanthropy Network, this is Roy Kessel signing off live from Radio Row at Super Bowl 59. Please remember to live generously.